So my name is Tori Hicks. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a second year university student. I'm 19 now, which is crazy. And I'm originally from Hanover, Ontario, which is in the middle of nowhere and nobody ever knows it. But I moved to Fredericton, New Brunswick in 2019 to start university. I was really lucky growing up. My family, we traveled a bit together. We went to like Florida a couple times. We went to Mexico a few times. And then when I hit high school, my school actually had like a teacher who had a travel group in there. And my mom was like, you have to join. You have to go. Like, I don't care where they're going, you have to go. So I ended up going to Ecuador, Costa Rica, and Italy with this group for 3 years out of my four in high school, which just was the best few things that I ever got to do like in my life because I was really young and I'd never traveled outside of the country without my parents before. And then suddenly I was in these whole new cultures and didn't speak the same languages as them and totally like fish out of water. And it was so amazing. And I loved it. And I loved every single second of it. Ecuador was probably my favorite. It was my first trip that I ever went on. So I would have been 15 at the time, or 14 or 15. So I was really young and I was in this country without my parents. It was kind of like, oh, I'm this like super cool person in this country on a tour group with a teacher, but we did like some volunteering, which I now understand as voluntourism and wasn't great. But at the time, I was really like excited about that. But just in general, I got to see a country that is so incredibly beautiful and just covered in nature and animals. And I got to like go on this rickety old swing at a cheese farm that was like the swing was right over a cliff. And at the time, I was, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't seem safe. It seems like a bad idea. And then the farmer who was taking us around, who didn't speak English, just sort of picked me up by my armpits and put me on the swing. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going on the swing. It was really weird. And my teacher was like laughing and taking pictures of me and like she was loving it. She was having a great time. But he pushed me and I was out over a cliff hanging on for dear life. And it was like being a 10-year-old kid again on the swing set, except like everything in your imagination of flying and like where you would be in the world if you could be anywhere, that was all real. So it was this sort of like, oh my God, I'm actually here. I'm actually like looking out over this beautiful country and I'm falling back on a swing. Like, how did this happen? So that was definitely a really cool experience. And one of the stories that makes my dad break out into a cold sweat because he hates it, hates that I did that. An amazing memory, and something that I take with me every day. Just unreal. Usually it was about 15. They didn't like to have a really big group, but also they could only like justify the cost if it was around 15 students. So you get really, really close to these people over a really short period of time because you're literally like going out of the country and inevitably somebody's going to get sick always on these trips. So we had a nurse that went on all of the trips with us, and she was amazing and my best friend because I have motion sickness, and we were always on a bus. So I was always like hopped up on gravel and sitting in the front next to her and like chatting about where I was going to go to university and stuff. So it was like this really weird experience where you get really close to somebody for a little over a week and then you leave and you have to go back into your real lives again. Especially like stuff like toilets. In developing countries, you can't flush the toilet paper in the toilets. And that's something that you really have to learn very quickly because the last place that you can flush your toilet is or toilet paper is in the airport. And then you have to like be on it because our systems just are built differently. And then you have to go home and be like, okay, I can flush my toilet paper again. Like, it's going to be weird if I mess this up in either situation. And it's such an awkward thing to be like, yeah, I have to think really hard when I go to the bathroom about my toilet paper. But definitely, there's a really big deal surrounding the ethics of traveling and the ethics of volunteering that has sort of come to light in the past few years, at least for me. I'm sure it existed before, but I was just not that well educated and didn't really know about it. But you have to be 100% sure that what you're doing in another country is actually needed and is actually going to be something that helps the community. Um, and in a lot of ways, people don't sort of they go and they're like, okay, I've built like this outhouse in Africa and it's going to be great because they don't have those, they don't have bathrooms, but then people there don't need it. It's not fundamental to their culture, it's not something that they asked for when they could have used that time and resources and manpower to build a school or build a hospital or like allocated the funds in a very different way. So I think it's sort of being able to sort of think like, are the people who are going to benefit from this project the ones that are in charge, or is it the people who want to look best and who want to sort of feel good about themselves for having gone to this country and doing this thing? Are they the ones that are benefiting the most? So it's definitely a really tricky situation. And I think, especially if I do ever go on an international internship, which with COVID is sort of, we don't know if that's going to happen. Um, I would want to sort of think about, am I doing something that is going to have a positive impact in the future? And also, am I going somewhere that is going to be like somewhere that's safe for me as a queer person or as a woman? So there's a lot of questions in the air regarding that. So it's definitely, I'm not going to do it this year, definitely. But if I do ever travel again, I'm going to have a lot more questions about like, is this ethical? Is this safe? Yeah. Is this good? Ooh. Recently I've been a little bit obsessed with Ireland and Scotland. I'm gonna go there. I really want to live there. For like an extended period of time. I also really want to go to Paris. I've just always, as long as I've been alive, I've wanted to go to Paris with my mom and like learned how to speak French so that we could go to Paris together. And it hasn't happened yet, but soon.